Good morning. Welcome to the Dave Fox Home Remodeling Show. I'm Gary Demas, and I'm your host today and every Sunday morning at 8 o'clock here at the Dave Fox Home Remodeling Show. Really glad to have everybody tuned in. And just in case you don't know, this is something kind of new. We are videotaping and putting these shows on YouTube so that they can see people like Mark and Adam, right? So smile at all the people out there. So if you're listening on the radio, you'll have to go to YouTube to see their lovely faces, right? No comments?
No.
Okay.
Thank you, Gary.
All right. Well, so, of course, Marc and Adam are from Greenscapes, a great landscaping company here in the Columbus area, and do a lot of work together. So we're going to be talking about winter stuff, I imagine, Mark, right?
A little bit.
We're probably not talking about spring or summer stuff yet.
We can, but I don't know if anybody's going to listen.
All right. So winter outdoors, here we come. So appreciate having everybody tuning in this morning. If you ever want to reach us at the radio show, you can email info@davefox.com. We'd love to hear your comments. Maybe you got ideas for future shows. Maybe you can suggest some different clothes for Mark and Adam to wear in the next show. Anything you want. So today we are going to be talking about winter. And first, I think in case there's new listeners, let's have you guys introduce yourselves and talk a little bit about what you do with Greenscapes.
Great. Thanks, Gary. My name's Mark. I've been at Greenscapes almost 20 years. We focus on residential landscape design build, which we are very passionate about and really like and enjoy, or you don't stick around doing that stuff for this long. Yeah. And just a quick point about the history of Greenscapes, much like Dave Fox, we've been around for 45 years now. So working in Central Ohio for that long, you start to create some good patterns, build a good business model, good people that we rely on to help us build these wonderful projects for our clients. So it's nice to have the background and the history of and the group of people we have behind us to help execute easy projects and hard projects.
Yeah. Okay, Adam?
Yeah, I've been with Greenscapes 2 or 3 years now. Worked with various other companies since graduating, but definitely prefer Greenscapes over any of those. Really nice company to come in and work with, and they've got that background and a lot of the things figured out that maybe newer companies are still kind of trying to work their way through. So it's been really nice to have all the expertise available to me coming in here for sure.
Yeah. I'm thinking as we're talking about how long we've been in business together as companies, and I think of the three things that make that happen. One is you can't be charging too much.
Right.
You can't be charging too little, and you got to do good work.
That's a very simple way of.
So your pricing has to be right, and you got to do good work, and you can stay in business a long time.
Right.
Yeah.
We met clients the other day, and it was just that conversation. Well, how have you been around so long? Well, our pricing must be pretty good, and we must do a pretty good job, or we wouldn't be here. We compare what we do in other markets, and you can see where other people charge more and other people charge less. It's just all market driven, and you only can do what the market will allow for any business.
Yeah. Well said. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the history of Greenscapes. And I know, Adam, you mentioned what a nice company it is to work for because they've learned some things that maybe newer companies are still learning. And that's got to be a great advantage, someone coming into the industry and linking up with a company that has all this experience behind them.
And not just that, but ever since I started, I get the idea that they're still learning, and I think that's a big part of it as well. Is not thinking you have all the answers, because the industry and the environment and clients change, along with the city, and every year is a little different. So I see that as well. Them not thinking that they know everything either, which is I think a big part as well.
Yeah, Adam's exactly right. When I first started, being in home sales. The first rule that all the experts would tell you is you need to have the husband and wife together and all that stuff. And now that's a rarity to meet both people all 100% of the time. People are just too busy. I still hear stories. I heard stories about a siding company who was insisting that they met both people. Well, that's not how things work anymore. There's texting clients, emailing, meeting one, then meeting the other, and you just have to be flexible. And even when we remodeled at our house, we did siding, and my wife and I talked about a group of colors that we liked, and then it was a surprise when it got put on the house because it was what she ultimately decided, but it was within that, it was within the budget we discussed, and it was within the color family we discussed.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. You talk about, making sure both homeowners are there when you go to meet them, because we've both been in this industry a long time, and years ago it's like, obviously as a salesperson you want to make a sale, and so talking about all the different techniques on how to sell, and really the jobs, the roles that we're in, it's more relational selling and consultative selling, where if you're selling windows or siding, you want to get out there and sell it that day. Yeah. And you don't want there to be the excuse that, well, okay, I'm going to tell my wife about this first, or I'm going to tell my husband about this first. Because that's why they want, on a one-call close, they want everybody there, all the decision makers. Right. So they can get that thing sold, because that's what they're after. Right. But that's not the case with us. I mean, when people are investing a lot of money in their home and there's design work involved, you don't just go in there and sell them a piece of siding or a window. Right. You're selling them a whole process and a design and everything that goes with that. And
that's funny. We've had consultants come in and they've always struggled because they're always on that one sale point, and we're like, well, we have a relationship, we build that up, we discuss, we change, we adjust, and they're looking at, well, why does it take so long from the first call to the contract signing? We're like, well, that's, you have to go back and you have to look at this, and it might take a week, and this might take another week. Sure. And they were always frustrated with our process, and we're like, I think, what we do is pretty good, and we move about it as quickly as possible, but it's not just, here's a window. Do you want the good window or the okay window? It's this much, sign here. We'll be there tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, the sales philosophy in some companies would be, I need my salespeople to be really good salespeople to get in there and sell the project. Where I think we just depend on the reputation of our company and people knowing about us, wanting to choose us, because we don't have super slick salespeople.
No, that's what I always tell people. I'm like, I'm a bad salesperson. I like the design. I like working with clients. I like seeing things built, and hopefully through all that process they will hire us to do it. But if I have to just go out and sell something, I don't think I'd be very good at that.
All right, so all our listeners, if you want a bad salesperson, you get hold of Marc at Greenscapes. Adam, are you a good or bad salesperson?
Somewhere in between.
Somewhere in between. Okay. All right. Well, that's interesting. I don't know how we got off on all that topic, but we did. So anyways, we're going to eventually get back to really the winter and what can happen. Maybe prep for people before winter starts, or what do they do to maintain their whatever during winter?
All of those things.
All those things.
Lots to talk about.
All right, well, let's talk about one thing now, and then we'll get into more in the second session.
Okay.
So what's the one thing we're going to talk about now?
So let's start with interest in the wintertime. When we're designing projects in the summertime, you're thinking about everything flowering and what's interesting now. Well, the flip side of that coin is right now, the beginning of December, leaves are down, all the plants are getting kind of ready for winter. So what is interesting now?
Yeah. And sometimes that's, like Marc said, a lot of people don't think about that, but there's a lot of ways, that we can think about those things. The easiest one is something evergreen, a plant that will have some interest. We more often than not try to incorporate at least some sort of evergreen into our designs. When you're talking about planting, beyond that, a lot of people cut their grasses down in the fall, tall ornamental grasses. We like to leave them up until spring a lot of the times. They can add a little bit of interest. A plant with some berries on it, like a holly, is really nice, just in the winter time. Red twig dogwoods, which are just like they sound, a shrub with red twigs on it, especially when you get a nice, snowfall and that white backdrop, can be really cool, and the plant is totally dormant. So we do try to think of some things like that.
Okay, Adam and Marc, so we're going to carry on with that right after our break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Dave Fox Home Remodeling Show. I'm Gary Demas, and I've got two gentlemen with me this morning, Marc and Adam from Greenscapes.
Morning.
Good to see you guys.
Hey, Gary.
And in case you want to see what these guys look like, You can tune into, well, you don't tune into YouTube. You just go there, right? You type in
Pull it
the
up.
address, youtube.com, and then you search for Dave Fox Home Remodeling Show. And then something like that will come up. And if you're on the radio, you can't see what I'm pointing to, but if you go to YouTube, you'll see it. Dave Fox Home Remodeling Show. So we are starting to videotape our broadcasts and put them up there for people.
Are we the first ones?
No, you're not. Sorry,
Oh,
Mark.
no.
You know, the first ones, gave me a nice contribution, but you guys just didn't come through. So So what can I say?
Yeah, so enough. We're at the bottom of the list. That's
All
fine.
right, and of course that's not the truth. But we just did start. I think this is maybe the third or fourth broadcast. It'll be on YouTube. So everybody can go there and listen at your leisure. Or you can go to DaveFoxRadio.com if you are driving in the car and just want to listen to stuff, right?
Right.
Okay, so we're talking about winter and making our outdoors look as nice as possible, right? So, and Adam, you were talking before the break, maybe you want to repeat some of that stuff because you were talking about something that's red, and I was thinking, wow, it'd be nice to see something red in your yard in the wintertime.
Yeah, we had talked, initially about evergreens, especially ones that have ornamental berries in the winter. I had mentioned, if you have ornamental grasses, sometimes you can cut those down typically in the fall or the spring. Think about leaving them until spring, give a little more interest in the landscape. And then, the red twig dogwood is a pretty common shrub a lot of people use, and it's exactly like it sounds. It's a little bit larger shrub and has some nice red twigs in it, which, especially if you group them together, can be really nice after a snowfall, just so it's not just a boring, stick coming out of the ground. They're really cool.
They change with the weather too. So as we get sunny, warm days or dark, cold days, that red will change colors. And there's other types.
Yellow twig ones.
There's yellow
too.
twig ones,
Cool.
and they're kind of neat because they do change throughout all year long. They'll be darker, not very red in the summertime, and then they change colors through the winter, which is really neat.
That's interesting, yeah.
Yeah, and beyond that, there's a lot of trees and things with ornamental bark on them, paperbark maple, some birches, things like that, can have a little bit of interest. This golden false cypress, golden mops, sometimes we call them, can be really cool, like along with like a blue spruce, which don't plant as much of those anymore, but some varieties still can look nice. And just anything to get a little color out there when everything is bare really makes a big difference.
And that's the hallmark of a good design is it a 4-season design?
Yeah.
Do we have things happening all year long? And that can happen with plants, like Adam was saying. It can happen with stonework.
Sure.
We use native boulders and slabs a lot in our designs. And it's a static element that doesn't change very much, but when everything else around it changes, then it creates a lot of interest. So, you just take this big rock and put it in your yard, and you're like, well, it doesn't seem like enough. But as, the perennials around it grow up and down and disappear, and other plants are blooming and lose their leaves, that consistent nature of the stone, looks really nice and creates that vertical interest.
Yeah, Mark, that reminds me of some projects you've done for us, and it's really these big rocks with their unique shapes become part of the artwork of the design, I think.
Oh, yeah.
And I can remember a couple of cases where your guys knew of the perfect stone to put in the perfect spot. 'Cause you guys must have these all these different stones with different shapes, and the guys must kind of get familiar with them because they think, I know what's the stone that's going to work perfect in that spot.
They do. So we have the stuff we usually bring out to people's house, and at our nursery we have the leftovers.
Just bring them out there in your car.
Yeah, you just toss them in the back. So the foremen always know sort of what's in that little inventory at our office, and they always keep an eye on it, and we keep those around just for that point where we'll be doing a project and they need one rock to fit one spot.
Yeah.
And they'll say, oh, it's time for that rock, and they go out, and it's amazing how those guys can do that sometimes. But they'll just take that thing and put it right in there, and it fits perfectly.
Yeah.
It's another art form.
So as we're talking about this and thinking about multi-season landscaping and what's it going to look like in the winter, which I think most people don't even give it a thought. They just think, well, the wintertime I'm inside, there might be snow out there, there might not be, there's no leaves on the trees, so I'm not worried about it. But it can be something nice to look at. I think in my backyard I've got these large flat stones that kind of have got a mound clear across the back, and it's all mulched. But there's these in 3 different locations there. There's really wide, maybe 6 feet wide by 8 inch high, big flat stones building stairs up. You know, there's like 3 of them, and it just makes such a statement to see those out there. And even if there's not much else, they alone really add so much contrast, so much interest to the backyard. And if they weren't there, it'd just be this hump of mulch.
Right.
Yeah.
It's something simple, just like that, because it is a form of artwork to have that in the backyard. And then from, you know, sort of those things that go into the beds to make things look interesting, you know, then, you know, structures always look good, you know, seat walls and fireplaces. And, you know, pergolas, you know, as they season and weather and hold the snow, they also create more interest rather than just a flat patio.
True.
You know, Adam's working on a couple projects with some wood panels, you know, sort of in the bed to help create some screening, but to do things a little differently and create that interest.
Yeah, you get a little lighting in there after that, whether it's on the wood or stone or plants. I mean, not only are you increasing the safety of your property, but, you know, something that was, you know, kind of invisible and dark and dull now is, you know, a little bit of an art piece as well, just highlighted, and, you know, lighting can go a long way. Like Mark said, if you've, you know, got the budget for it, some covered structures, heating sources, whether it's a fire pit, fireplace, or you know, overhead infrared heaters, and there was a lot of ways that you can still utilize those spaces all year round too, not only to look at but to occupy, you know, and it can be a whole nother appeal.
Yeah, a long time ago, the first time we dealt with a heater, an actual real heater, was a client, and we built this big pergola structure, grill, beautiful, and his wife decided she didn't want him smoking cigars inside anymore. So we incorporated a heater into this pergola structure.
Okay.
And he said that thing is so warm, he stands out there underneath it and just smokes his cigars. He's outside in the middle of the winter.
What kind of heater is it?
It was a gas heater.
Oh, gas
you know,
heater.
like a big gas heater that is actually, you know, attached to the structure.
Okay.
Worked fine. Said it worked out good, keeps him warm when he's grilling.
Yeah.
And everybody was happy.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh, well, okay. Now
Yeah.
we know a little bit more about heaters. And then Adam, we've worked on heaters on other projects. So it does help, you know, those heating elements does help to extend those spaces farther into the winter. Because that's here what people always ask, you know, we're making this investment on our outside. How do we extend that investment to get more days out of it?
Yeah, so when you're designing something, let's say in the spring, you're working with clients and they're designing their landscape, and of course they're thinking spring, summer, maybe fall. But do you talk about winter in your design?
We do. We do. It's something more in the front yard. We always do that. In the backyard, people may not be as worried because you're not seeing that every day. So, you know, in the front yard, we have one sort of set of rules we work off, but in the backyard, you know, they could be gone all winter long and they don't care about having one evergreen in the backyard. And that's okay, because now we're really customizing that backyard to meet their needs. The front yard needs, you know, the curb appeal needs to look good all year long, but in the backyard, it can be very seasonal. We did a very nice project in Upper Arlington where her whole backyard is a bird sanctuary. So there's not much of anything going on, you know, as far as evergreens. There are some back there for some interest, but it's very heavy spring, summer, fall. And then some of those plants will hold on to their seeds into the wintertime, but it's far from a traditional design because that's exactly what she wanted. She didn't. Now the front yard of her house is a more traditional 4-season design, but the backyard was exactly what she wanted.
Great. Okay, so I've got Mark and Adam with me from Greenscapes, and we are talking winter and outdoors. So, guys, we're going to take a quick break. After the break, let's talk about kind of caring for the outdoors and what happens through the wintertime. Okay, we'll be right back. You are listening to the Dave Fox Home Remodeling Show. I'm Gary Demas. I'm president of Dave Fox Design Build Remodelers, and just like Greenscapes, we've been in town here in Columbus a long time, right, Mark?
Oh, yeah.
Yep, and we've worked together for a long time. So today we're talking outdoors. If you're just tuning in, we're talking about really winter and landscaping outdoors and plantings outdoors and what to do with those in the winter, right?
Yeah, right. You know, the important things we talked about was, you know, having a good design that looks good all season long, and having those other things, a good mixture of evergreens, stonework, artwork, something else to create interest on your landscape for four seasons. It's hard and difficult. The winter is always the hardest, but to create that interest just so it's not beautiful in the summertime in July and the rest of the year it's just there.
Yeah, absolutely. So we were talking about rocks and how artistic they can be. Mm-hmm. So do they require any winter care?
They do.
Really?
No.
Oops. I was going to say, I haven't done any of mine. So.
No. Nope. That's the nice thing. Yeah. The earth made them, so they should last a long time at your home.
Yeah. Good deal. All right. So what does require extra attention during the winter?
Well, at this time of year, you should have most of your landscape put to bed, let's say, for the winter time. You should have the last of the leaf and litter picked up from around the beds. The reason why we want to remove the leaf debris and the sticks are you can sometimes carry some diseases and pests, and so we want to remove that out of the landscape so we don't reintroduce them in once everything starts growing again in the spring. So we want to clean those beds out. You want to make sure you have about at least 2 inches of mulch going through the winter, which maintains moisture level in the ground, and also helps to insulate the root system of the plants.
Makes sense.
So you want to make sure you have those done. If you have any annuals or perennials that need to be cut down, removed, those should be done. You can do a little bit of pruning. You don't want to do anything too aggressive. If you have maybe 1 or 2 branches that are growing up a lot higher than the rest of the plant, maybe prune them, but really not much of anything for pruning. And then if you need to cut your grass one more time, you should get that done. Usually I cut my last time sometime around Thanksgiving.
Okay.
And there's been some changes of thought about this, but I still cut my grass a little low for the last mowing, because there's some molds and some other things that can happen over the winter if it gets too long. Because if we do have a warm winter, I think it's I forget what the number is. If it's sunny and 45, your grass will still grow.
Wow.
So, we can have those days in the wintertime. So that's why I like to cut my grass a little shorter. Some people say leave it longer. Yeah, I say shorter.
So it's just a little after Thanksgiving, so the people maybe could still do that if
it's
they need to.
It's still a good time if you need to. And the other thing is about what you do with your leaves. Some people really encourage to use your mulching mower to mulch your leaves back in your lawn. That has a big depends on. It depends on how much leaves and what type. If you had an oak tree or a sycamore, something with a big thick leaf, and you have a lot of leaf debris, I would not recommend doing that. If you have something like a honey locust or a maple tree with a thinner leaf and it's just a little bit of leaves on it, that's very good for your lawn, because those leaves, get into the thatch, they break down, they hold moisture, they put some nutrients back in the ground. But if you overdo it and you crowd out the grass, that keeps the sun off the grass, and grass likes to be very, very exposed to the sun. Yeah. So it's kind of, do this, but if not, do that.
So what if somebody realizes that, oh my gosh, I don't have enough mulch out there now? Do people actually put mulch down before winter?
Yeah,
really?
Yeah. But it's more of a necessity. It's not for color or anything. It's just, if your mulch is really thin and the ground's showing, just get a couple bags and just sort of put a little bit down. Yeah. You should, hopefully, if you've done everything and keep an eye on it through the year, it's maybe just spotty here and there where the mulch may have blown away or washed away or it just isn't there.
Yeah, well, I'm so proud of myself, Mark, because you know that I put cypress mulch down.
Yes, the cypress mulch. Your mulch should still be
my
there.
Good 3 inches on there this spring, and looks so great, and the color I liked because the leaves, everything that fell on it, on black mulch, it just stands out like crazy. But here, that the color, the golden color, just kind of blends it all in. So I was just looking at my mulch the other day, because I know that you talked about, the protection that provides, and moisture and the insulation value. So my cypress is holding up really good. I still have, at least 2 inches, maybe 2.5. So I think I'm in good shape.
Yeah, you should be good. You should be good. It's just, just that last little bit. That's what mulch is really for. Yeah, it's for the protection and the moisture.
Yeah, good. Okay, so Adam, what would you do on your home for outdoor winter protection?
Well, I'm still a renter, but people ask a lot.
Okay.
But one thing me and Mark always talk about is we don't do a ton of concrete, but when we do, we always make sure people understand that there is some maintenance involved with that. It doesn't have to be every year, but I would say every 1 to 3 or so, you want to make sure you're keeping that sealed up. Driveways or patios, best you can. There's a lot of companies that will come out and seal it for you. If you have the time, you can do it yourself as well.
That's sealing your concrete is very important because especially over a driveway, as your car sits on there in the wintertime and drips that salt onto the concrete, the sealer helps to protect the concrete from the salt, and concrete does not like salt at all. They're not friends. So it helps to protect it and keep your investment longer in good shape.
Yeah. Do people usually power wash before they put the sealer on?
A lot depends on the sealers.
Really?
It depends on what type of sealer you had. That's why if you do have a concrete driveway, to talk to the installer and know what type of sealer they put down, because there are different types that they start with. And based on what you start with is what you should, how you continue your process. We have some clients who have us come back every 3 to 5 years, and just they've made this investment on this big concrete driveway, and they want to just continue with us to keep it up. And their driveways are. Her driveway's 14 years old now, and it still looks really good because it's a really big driveway, and she's made that investment, and she's like, I want this to be here longer than me.
Makes sense. So if someone bought a home and they have the concrete drive is 20 years old and they have no idea what sealer was on it, and maybe it hasn't ever been sealed, what would they do?
Well, then you just we'd consult with our concrete expert, and then we want to evaluate it. And most people don't ever seal their driveways once they're sealed the initial time. Part of your initial installation with a driveway is a sealer,
right?
But usually no one ever keeps up with that. So once that is disintegrated, then you're open to whatever type is the best for your application.
Makes sense.
And along with the concrete sealers, paver sealers are very popular too. We used to not use paver sealers very much because of the look. When that stuff originally came out, they were only a wet look. So they were all shiny and really glossy, and not a lot of people like that. Now that they have some more matte finish sealers, which are more protectants, we've gotten a lot more into sealing pavers.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because pavers, I'm sure, are highly absorbent.
Yes.
And you get the sealer on there, and of course in the wintertime you get moisture down in there, and then it freezes and tends to kind of push things apart and wreaks havoc, right?
It is.
Yeah. Those leaves can discolor it a lot too, so sometimes they can help prevent stains a little bit. Just a little bit of water and a stiff brush versus having to power wash. Sometimes those can help with that too.
And there are special sealers too that we've used that are antifungal sealers.
Okay.
So if you have like the backyard of your house that might be shaded in a little bit of a corner that never gets any sun and always has that sort of that black fungus on it, which are some microorganisms growing in it, that anti-mold sealer helps to keep them clean and keep that stuff from growing, which is a really nice add-on.
Great. Okay, so we are listening to Marc and Adam from Greenscapes right here in Columbus. We're talking about exterior landscaping, wintertime. Earlier, if you missed it, we were talking about some of the things that you guys do in your design to make sure that the outdoors looks good during winter. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You are listening to the Dave Fox Home Remodeling Show. Really glad to have you tuning in this morning. Well, it's December already. Amazing, huh?
The clock's ticking.
The clock is ticking. Christmas is coming.
It's short this year. We put our Christmas stuff up already before Thanksgiving.
Oh, really? Did you?
Yeah.
Wow, you beat me, that's for sure. So last year, my wife has always wanted a really big, tall tree, and we have the perfect family room for it because, my gosh, that ceiling must go up 25 feet, and there's all these windows in there. So we went and bought a nice artificial tree, and man, those things are heavy. So it's a 12-footer, and of course in sections, and I was putting it up pretty much myself, and man, the bottom sections they are heavy. So you unfold all these things and you build that nice tree up there, and it really looked nice. And so she had fun decorating it because she loves a Christmas tree. But that's the first time we had a really big tree, so I'm really surprised she hasn't had me get that out yet.
It will be.
It'll be coming soon, I'm sure.
It'll be a surprise when you get home.
Oh, well, yeah, Gary, we want to put the tree up tonight. Oh, okay.
Oh, you have to pull a hamstring or something. I don't know. That bum knee's going out.
I've tried that one before, so I think I can't use that again. Okay. Well, we're talking outdoor landscaping, wintertime, but winter will be here and gone, and then what happens?
Right. Then we need to get started on next season. So, we are still actively working with clients every day, going out and meeting people in the cold, measuring in the cold, which is fine. That's what we do.
Yep.
But it's always important to be ahead of the game. And I'm sure you found this too. Our construction industry is getting busy, and our timelines are getting longer. Usually, the way we used to work, we'd meet somebody, we'd sign a contract, and it'd be 3 to 5 weeks before we start. Well, that's now 6, 10, 12 weeks before we start on a project. So we encourage, and this is an industry thing, we encourage everybody to start, early, especially if you have an event like a graduation party.
Sure. Yeah.
Or,
sounds like you guys have run into that a time or two.
We have.
Can't say it enough.
So that's the first thing. Is there an event we're working around? Because that changes the timelines tremendously.
Yeah.
What is the project? What do you want to do? So we want to really get to the bottom of those answers and create something that you can be happy with, and when we're gone and a few years later, you're like, we're still extremely satisfied with what we've done.
Yeah. We know you mentioned the time difference, like from years ago and today. So I think there's a couple things driving that. One is the market conditions are good. People are doing a lot, spending money on their homes and really improving them. But also just the world of information and the materials and products that are available. It's a design has so much more in it today than it had 10 or 15 years ago, because there's so much more product available. There's so much more feedback from consumers through the internet. People now have a way to reach companies and kind of really steer some designs just because of what they're looking at, or maybe they're looking at what's happening in Europe or California or the East Coast, and getting ideas and wanting those from the manufacturers that manufacture these products. And I was talking to a faucet manufacturer the other day, and they were just talking about how the consumers are driving innovation because there's so much information out there, and they get all these ideas and they want these products.
Yeah, we were doing that with Adam's client the other day with looking at her Pinterest boards.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times, sometimes people will come and not know exactly what they want. And, I tell them, don't worry too much about it. We'll get some samples out here, variety, or I'll get some pictures over, and we'll figure that part out, But more often than not anymore, people will come with very specific ideas of what they want, and whether or not they're realistic or fit their budget is another thing. But, at least the style that they would like to portray, just like you said, because there's so much out there and they've seen these things that click with them and their own personal style. And, I think it's very helpful for the most part.
That's what we say. We always tell our clients, we want you to be as involved as you want, and we want to guide you through the process. But if you don't give us any guidance, you're going to get our opinion of what you should have, which is great for us, but it may not be what you want. So that's, it's an interactive process. And
sure.
We always encourage people to say, you're not going to hurt my feelings if you say, we don't like this. That's great. I don't mind hearing that, because we all went through a design program and we're used to getting our emotions hurt. And it was worse in school because they weren't very nice about it. But getting a no, or say, this isn't, I like this but I don't like this area. Okay, that's fine. That was just the first try. Okay, well, let's adjust this. Let's move the patio. Let's change the fire pit. Let's move this walkway.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, okay. Now, this is more what we want. And
sure.
So it's a hand-in-hand process.
And that's what we want from our clients. I mean, some people may be a little timid about, maybe they feel like they're walking on your design or something, but really we want to know the honest truth, because we want them to be happy with that, what they do, this year and 5 years from now.
That's very true. Very true.
Yep. So it's time for people, if they're thinking about doing something next year, to be working on design now, right?
Yes. Please call us. We'd be more than happy to come out and meet. Just like your process is very similar. We come out, we do that initial walkthrough, try to create that level of comfort, between us and them and us. They feel confident that we can accomplish what their goals are. We do have a design retainer, small amount to get us started on the drawings, because it does take, on a decent sized residential design, there's, a couple hours to compile the information, start the plan, and then since we work in a studio environment, we always bounce ideas back and forth between each other, and the other designers say, "What do you think about this? What do you think about that? What do you think about this?" And it's nice because we can run ideas by each other before we get to the client, so we can already sort of have these things hashed out.
Yeah. So if someone's thinking about doing some landscaping next year, what would be their homework before they come and talk to you guys?
In the winter time, I always tell people, as it's getting, toward this time of year, it's nice to have some photos, to have some ideas from an idea board. Talked about Pinterest and things like that. But anytime I talk to anybody, if I'm, maybe they're not sure about what they want, maybe I can't make it out that week, I say, send some pictures over. So I tell people, and grab some pictures from some different angles. Not that I mind going out there and doing it, but if you're there every night, send me some over, because then we share those, like Mark said, right away, maybe even before we have a design and fee from you. And we can, our mind is thinking about it in the back of our heads a little bit. So that's something personally I have told a lot more people this year on that first phone call. Send me over some pictures, and here's my cell phone number. Text them over, and I'll just at least take a look and let you know what you're getting into, so then we can save everyone some time. Maybe this is, maybe the budget we're way off from what you had thought, or maybe your idea just plain out won't work, and we can at least tell you that right away.
Yeah. So how do people get hold of you guys?
Yeah, the greenscapes.net is a great way to get a hold of us. That we have a link there to send some information, and also can call us.
614-837-1869 is the office, the old way.
The old way. Well, sending a letter would be the real.
That would be the oldest way, or sending someone a tablet, a stone tablet.
Well, that's getting back quite well.
Papyrus.
But the tablet did last a long time, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Greenscapes obviously been in Columbus for 45 years, right?
45. Yeah, our owner Bill started the company when he was still in school.
Yeah.
At OSU, and then developed it into what we are today.
Great. So just out of curiosity, if someone typed greenscapes.com, what would they?
I don't know. I haven't looked that
You'll
up.
have to try that sometime.
All right. There used to be a government program, and I don't know if that still has that or not.
Okay. Well, Marc and Adam, it's been great talking with you this morning. Thanks a lot for being on. I'm sure all of our listeners got a lot of good advice and ideas about, number one, maybe if they're going to design, add winter elements, or number two, how to take care of their winter issues. So we appreciate everybody tuning in. You can reach us by email at info@davefox.com. You can go to davefoxradio.com to download shows. You can go to YouTube and search for the Dave Fox Home Remodeling Show. We'll be back here next Sunday morning at 8.